I've spent a good portion of my life looking at anime and thinking how weird it was, thinking that people were just trying to like get out any of their kinks through this like weird cartoon type thing. But then I actually sat down and I experienced anime and I had an entirely worldview change. Today, I wanted to take a look at a video explaining that. Why do some people hate anime? I have not watched this video. This video has been on my recommended feed for quite some time, and today I thought we'd sit down, we'd react to it today. Why do some people hate anime? I'd love to hear your story down below in the comments as well, because anime has become such a, I don't want to say huge part of my life, but some of the greatest stories I've ever seen in my entire life came from some anime shows. We're going to be talking about that today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with many YouTube channels. Let's watch this video together. Links will be in the pinned comment description down below to go support this channel.
I want to paint a picture for you.
Let's
you
hear
just
it.
finished watching an anime, and not just any anime, but one that is truly special.
Yeah, and there's been quite a few of them so far. When everybody talks about like a story like that, I always think of Attack on Titan because there is no beating that.
The characters, the story, everything about it rings so true, and you know that this is an experience that will stick with you for a lifetime. It's the kind of anime that once you finish watching it, you just can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, and then you get into the YouTube, you start watching some video essays, or if you're in my case, you start making some content about it, which, by the way, if you're new here, by the way, we have a ton of anime show review content for you to take a look at.
It burns within your thoughts like a white hot fire, and you just can't help but feel like you need to share this experience with someone you know. So without hesitation, you message a friend about it.
I know exactly where this is going. And the problem is, I used to be this guy. I wasn't the guy who like mindlessly hated on it, but I was like, oh, that's weird. Because what I knew from anime, I just knew the like, the ooh woo, like the girls like that, like the, oh my God. And then like, it was just, I thought it was kind of like softcore corn. You know, that's what I thought of it. And I was so wrong in that. But unfortunately, that's the stigma that it seems to have.
Eager for them to possibly share in this incredible euphoria you feel after having experienced this amazing story. And when you get that text back from your friend and giddily read over the message, your enthusiasm begins to fade.
Now, the thing you know what, I do understand, because there is a stigma and there is a actual problem with like hardcore anime fans that have like made the mainstream. I get that. But for the people going, I'm not watching a cartoon, I think that's ridiculous.
As you read the dreaded words from your friend that populate onto your screen.
Oh, I don't really like anime. You know what's funny is it depends. Like, I won't just go and ask people in my day-to-day life, hey, go check out this show. This show's really good. It'll have to be if we're talking about like, hey, what shows are you watching? Any movies you like or things like that? Then I'll talk about like, you guys got to check out this Attack on Titan show.
Oh, I don't really like anime.
You feel somewhat crushed and maybe even a little judged.
No, to be honest with you, I think that's a little harsh. Like, I don't think that you should be, just because someone doesn't watch a show, you shouldn't feel like hurt inside about it. But I mean, people do judge you, and that one's a little bit tougher to deal with, because like, dude, I'm not a weird guy. I just watched the best piece of fiction of all time, and you can't understand that.
Begin to think of ways that you can still maybe convince them to watch it, but you know the writing's on the wall.
I don't understand the big deal. If somebody doesn't want to watch something, I would never pressure them.
Through to them. And it's in that moment you realize you can no longer be friends with this person.
Okay. Well, I don't know if, okay, he can't be serious.
Okay, well,
okay, yeah, sorry. I assume there was a that's too far joke coming.
Not that far, but you are a little bit bummed. I'm sure that there's probably a number of us that have been there before, right? Where one of your friends is adamant about disliking anime and don't really seem like they'll ever really change their mind.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people in my life that are adamant about it for just a ridiculous reason, where it's like, I'm not watching cartoons, or they flat out don't know anything about it. The only thing that I do understand is they've experienced something along the lines of like Fire Force. It took me all of my might to get through Fire Force because of the ridiculous things I've seen that, and I know that there's worse. So if they tried it, or if they know about things like that, or if they see the weird people online, I understand. I get that. but there are just like people who blindly hate on not knowing what it is.
Now, as someone who makes anime content on YouTube, I'm probably a little bit biased. Despite this, however, even I have to admit that there are things about anime I'm not as big of a fan of.
Oh, okay, so I didn't know where this video was going to go. It looks like it's going to be a little bit of critique about anime.
So I can see how any number of these things could turn someone off enough to where they just don't really feel like giving anime the time of day. Nobody is wrong for disliking anime. That's just their opinion and preference. And
Very well said. And it's important to note I'm not coming from that angle anywhere. Like, people like different things in life, and that is totally okay. And it's sad that we constantly have to say that in this world that we live in now, but that is the case.
they're more than welcome to it. However, I do feel as though that some of the reasons people cite for their dislike of anime are a bit unfair or even downright ignorant, and aren't necessarily sound reasons to dismiss anime as a whole.
And I'm excited. I hope he gets into all of it over here because we're just exiting the intro over here. So I want to hear what he has to say.
Today, I wanted to talk about those reasons and why I disagree with them.
Let's hear it.
Which brings us to point number 1. Anime is for little kids.
Yeah, I've gotten this one. You know what's funny is I didn't realize until a couple recent years, like I grew up watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And I grew up watching things like Dinosaur King. I didn't know those were anime shows. I didn't know those were considered anime, but I understand that like things on like 4Kids TV were actually made for kids. But there are a ton of adult-made content or adult-made shows, adult-made story that exist. And people just look at that and go, and they judge you. They look at you weird just because it's animated, and they go, yeah, that's for kids. The same problem with, like, as somebody who loves How to Train Your Dragon, the greatest trilogy of all time, in my opinion. People look at you and think you're straight up weird for watching a kids show, and then they'll think less of you. If they really believe that's like for little kids, you're like, okay, what's wrong with that weird? And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me. I like this movie about dragons that I just watched.
Now, this one in particular, I don't see as much nowadays. However, it is still something that I do still come across.
Really? No, I see this in my day-to-day, dude. I see this because especially like I have a day job that I go to, and there are people that are anime fans, and I hear it.
And was incredibly widespread when I was first really getting into anime. The notion that anime is for little kids, and if you're above the age of 18, you shouldn't really be watching it. And as ignorant as a mindset like this is, I do see how someone could think like this.
It depends what you're watching, right? For example, like, and another thing that I have been getting into recently is my sister and I started watching Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and Sonic X. I understand that those shows are made for kids, but it's fun to take a trip down the route of nostalgia. There are things that are made for kids, and if people are like just trying that for the first time, I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, like, I have trouble getting into that mindset because I'm revisiting these things because it's nice to revisit something that I loved so much when I was a kid, and there were good story elements of this stuff too.
Particularly if they live in America, like many of my viewers do. Of course, there's always exceptions, but for the most part, animation in America is viewed more as a children's medium. And
I'm sorry, SpongeBob will always be for all ages, and SpongeBob will never stop being funny.
this was no different when anime was blowing up in the States. The biggest, most mainstream anime from the 90s and early 2000s anime boom were very much targeted, or in some cases altered, for younger audiences.
That's important to note too. I guess they were altered, right? But I don't know much. If anybody could shed some light on this in the comments, I'd really appreciate it. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I need to get a handle on this because I always forget manga. I don't know what it's called. The books, okay? Or excuse me, I didn't know how it was pronounced. I don't know. Are those always like adult themes, or do they make things for children as well when it comes to that? Like, because for example, like I know that like I'll take Yu-Gi-Oh! For an example. People like straight up died in Yu-Gi-Oh! And then 4Kids would just make some like really stupid thing like, oh, they just got sent to the stars, you know? Or like Chumley's dad was an alcoholic. No, he just really liked hot sauce. Are the books like always for adults? If anybody could shed some light, I would appreciate that.
I could see how anyone who grew up during this time, then later grew out of cartoons, could see shows like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, or even Toonami era DBZ, and just assume that every anime is like this.
I didn't think that because I actually didn't. And I don't know what I was thinking. I thought they were just cartoons. I thought they were completely different. I looked at it the same way that I looked at SpongeBob when I was a kid. I thought anime was like adult content, you know, but for weirdos.
I mean, they came out on children's programming blocks, and two of the most prolific anime distributors in America were called Funimation and 4Kids.
Yeah.
Doesn't really
4Kids. There we go. Channel 62 when I was growing up.
give the impression that they're working on things for adults. Something that is only perpetuated when you also take into account the generational gap, most notably baby boomers or even early Gen Xers, people born between the 1940s and the early 1970s. A lot of millennials and Gen Zers that grew up with anime know that there's tons of anime for older audiences.
Yeah, and it took me a long time in my life to really experience that. Things like Death Note, things like Full Metal Alchemist, things like Attack on Titan, even Demon Slayer, I would say.
But to the older generation, they grew up watching stuff like Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo, or even stuff like Astro Boy and Speed Racer.
You know what's crazy too is it's okay for the people who grew up on those cartoons to go and revisit that. It's okay for them to still think Tom and Jerry's funny. It's okay for them to just still love their favorite childhood show. But if I say that I'm watching Yu-Gi-Oh! GX with my sister, I'm the weird one. Let's keep the double standard away from this conversation, okay?
Shows all about wacky antics or lighthearted adventures for children. To a lot of American society, this is just what animation is and ever will be. Not saying this is how animation should be seen, but in a lot of cases it is. And
I like that he's presenting it this way because it's understandable for some people to think that they're just wrong.
it's this mindset that keeps a lot of people from enjoying animation or taking it seriously as anything other than a children's medium. A lot of animation has to be made with children in mind because that's the only way it'll sell. And if it is for more mature audiences, typically it's going to be a comedic sitcom fueled by abundant adult humor like Family Guy or Rick and Morty. So
But isn't that animated? Isn't that animated? You know, you like Rick and Morty? Yeah, adult jokes, but I don't like cartoons. Okay? Okay, there's people that legitimately have that mindset, and that's so ignorant for me.
it's obvious that it's for adults. Of course, in modern times, we are beginning to see a shift towards less comedic adult animated content, but that doesn't change the fact that this is how it's been for a long time, and that a lot of people do still have this mindset.
Yep.
A mindset that historically just hasn't been that widespread in Japan. For the most
Widespread in Japan? Why just Japan? I don't know if I missed something there, if I'm not understanding his point, or I need to let him continue on with the point.
part, anime has always been seen as a medium that can be enjoyed by everyone there. And not
So it was normalized in Japan, and now we just need to take that next step with the West over here, which I think it's like starting to head towards that. Like more and more people are starting to turn out like me, where it's like, okay, I was completely wrong about anime. I was completely wrong. But it's important to note too, I was never one of those guys that looked at people and I'm like, you watch anime? Yeah. I'm gonna go watch my big boy show. Yeah. Game of Thrones. Yeah. I'm better than you.
you know, the whole family can sit down and enjoy it kind of way, but more so in that there's just a ton of variety, not only in what kind of shows there are, but what age groups those shows are aimed at. And I think there's kind of a cultural barrier there for certain people that didn't really grow up with anime or grew out of it.
Yeah, there definitely is. How do you think you fix that though? But I don't know, like, do we need to look at like how to actually fix it? Because first impressions are everything. I think it just matters what kind of like first impression people have on anime shows, because people don't often change their first impressions, especially with the world we live in today.
Sometimes it's hard to just look at an anime and immediately know who it's for. In one instance, the characters might be having some goofy, lighthearted fun, and in the next, something incredibly traumatic and dark can happen. This can be kind of...
Yeah, that was what still to this day, I'm not going to spoil it, but Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, that's still like one of the most horrifying things I have ever seen in fiction, period.
Jarring for some people. Which brings me to the second reason someone might dislike anime. Anime and its fans are weird.
Now, normal people, like perhaps you and I right now, can just watch our shows, enjoy our shows, and then go about our lives liking anime. But there are people that are just so freakishly weird about it that they have a bad rep, and that's why somebody like me exists, who grows up thinking those people are insanely weird. Anybody who likes these type of shows are like that. I understand that was ignorant of me, but I almost can't help it. Like, how was I supposed to think differently?
I've heard this one a lot, and I can kind of get where certain people are coming from with it. Anime does have its tropes, and some of them are much less tolerable than others. I get why anyone could have their hangups because of this, but I also think it is a bit of a generalization. Anime is just like any other form of media. It's going to have its tropes, yes, but those tropes are also going to vary from show to show.
There are some tropes though, like the high school thing, you know, like getting a little bit younger. Those are weird. The fan service is horrible. Like it just like there. Let me look at it this way. Let me tell you it this way, okay? If I have to worry about being embarrassed about somebody walking by my TV and what I'm watching, perhaps I shouldn't be watching it. Perhaps that's my sixth sense telling me, what are you doing? Okay, where I live, okay, my back door, the window's always open. You can see what we're doing in our living room if the window is open. You shouldn't have to worry about somebody walking by your house. I did have that worry with Fire Force. I did have that, and I was still intrigued by the plot of the show, so I continued watching it, but man, I was this close to turning it off because there are some ridiculous things that happen in that show, and I know that's pretty light.
Just because you watch one creepy anime, that doesn't suddenly mean all of them are creepy, and the same goes for the fans that like anime. I've seen a lot of people just kind of assume that all anime fans are either super immature because they watch stuff that's quote-unquote for children.
But the other thing is, like, I'm kind of watching this, I don't know what show it is, but you know, like, I don't know how to describe it. I had the problem with Demon Slayer. Like, Demon Slayer is one of my favorite shows ever, but it's so strange to me where you'd have scenes where, I don't know how to describe it. It's like when the characters freak out and then it kind of like paints an entirely different picture where their mouth is like getting like super, super wide open. Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense in what I'm saying. Kind of like Zenitsu, okay? Anytime Zenitsu freaked out ever. That, I think, is just weird. And if you like I don't understand why anybody would like that, to be honest with you. Like, the tropes are strange.
Or they're all weirdos because obviously anime is weird, so that makes you weird too.
And hang on, like, look at this. Like, this is just an unsettling picture. I don't know what this is. And use the wrong thing over there. Let me bring you over to that scene will work, okay? That's an off-putting picture. I don't get it. Like, I don't want to see that, you know? That's where I'm coming from this.
Because obviously anime is weird, so that makes you weird too. And this can lead to these fans getting treated badly, undeservedly. If you have an anime character as your profile picture, some people might disregard your opinion altogether. And
I mean, to be honest with you, like, I think it's a little strange, but I wouldn't, like, look down on anybody for doing it. I like the idea that I just presented to you where it's like, if I have to worry about my wife walking by, okay, then perhaps I shouldn't be watching it.
Again, this is a generalization. Every fan base is going to have miserable people within it, not just anime. And just like any other fan base, you can't just assume that everyone in that fan base is a bad apple.
That is very well said. I just finally figured out what that background music was. When it started hitting, I was like, huh, no, that's, I can't remember the level. Sonic Heroes. Ba-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. So good. Sorry. If you guys haven't played Sonic Heroes, I'm just going to sound really, really cringe.
That's just not how human beings work. And while I'm on the topic of fans, I should also point out that I don't really get the idea that a fan base can ruin a show. I feel like the fan community that forms around something shouldn't really be a factor when assessing the quality of that thing.
That's a good point. Very good point. Very well said.
However, this could basically be a video in and of itself, so I'll just keep it at that and move on to reason number 3.
All right, hit me.
They don't like the anime style.
I understand that, okay? I understand that. We all like different things, right? But I personally find it beautiful. Like, I find different art styles really, really beautiful in their own way, no matter what I'm watching. The only thing that I will draw the line with is claymation. My wife likes claymation. I'm like, how is that possible? It looks weird and it creeps me up. But then again, we all like different things, right?
When hearing an opinion I don't really agree with, I always try my best to look at it from a perspective other than mine. But this is one that I've always found kind of confusing. Anime isn't a genre or an art style. It's just a word that's used to categorize animation that comes out of Japan.
But the thing is, like, a lot of them do have that same. I would say that there is a style to anime. It just varies within that.
Anime, just like Western animation, has a huge variety of art styles and character designs. I just don't really get how anyone can take this vast amount of varying works of art and just lump it all under the quote-unquote anime art style.
He's right. he's right. But at the end of the day, you can look at something, you can go, that's anime.
For example, can you really look at something like Ranma 1/2 and say it looks just like Ghost in the Shell?
No, but
of course you can't, because like I said, they're created by different people with different art styles.
I can't argue to what he's saying. I can just look at things and go, yeah, that's anime.
Yeah, of course there's anime that are going to look at a glance similar to each other, but that's also the same for a lot of different media, not just anime. On top of this, I've also seen people criticize certain animation techniques that anime employs, like having characters remain completely static while...
You know what's funny is I've never really realized that until people pointed it out. And to be honest, I still don't really see it, and I don't see the big deal. As long as I'm invested in the story, do what you want with it. Just keep me invested.
Only having their mouth move. And while this is true for a lot of anime, I personally would make the argument that anime, just like any other television show or film, have slower moments in their narrative where complicated animation really isn't that necessary in these moments.
Yeah, as long as the line is being delivered and is keeping me entertained in the show, I'm all here for it. Doesn't matter to me.
Yes, there are anime that just have terrible animation throughout, but the opposite also applies. I feel like it's a bit unfair to only focus on the anime that have poor or stilted animation, especially when just this year an anime won the Oscar for Best Animated Film.
Really? I didn't know that. That's really cool. That's cool. I thought that type of stuff would be completely discarded because people don't see anime as, like, regular people don't see anime as, like, a good art style.
My personal opinion, I really have not seen anything that impresses me as much as anime has.
I think Demon Slayer, like, clears animation in my opinion, but I know that's a little bit of a special case.
I love Western animation. It's been with me my entire life. To this day, Aladdin is still probably one of my all-time favorite films. I'm not saying that Western animation is bad, but what I am saying is that to me, anime is just on a completely different level. And
different level. I think it varies from show to show, man. I think it varies from show to show. Like, whether or not the art style's better, whether or not it works out, it all kind of encompasses together with what we're trying to present.
So it kind of makes me sad that there's people that won't even give it the time of day just because it is anime.
And I will say, I have experienced better stories from anime than I have through anything made from the West so far. And I'm not like coming from that, like everything from the West sucks. It's just like, it's crazy to me that people are so into TV, so into shows, so into stories, and they don't watch arguably some of the greatest stories ever told. Like, I will sit here and confidently say, you will not find a better story, you will not find better fiction than Attack on Titan, and that is a show that everybody should watch. That and Better Call Saul. Well, I mean, that comes with Breaking Bad, but you get my point, okay? You won't find better.
Brings me to my final point, and where I believe all of these hangups begin to combine into one. And that is that some people have just never given anime a chance. This can relate to just about anything. And
a lot of people just refuse to. And I will not be the person who sits here and tries to get people to do something they don't want to do. I'll just be like, hey, watch this. If they don't want to watch it, they don't want to watch it.
Anime. If our brain is dead set on not liking something, chances are we're going to be stubborn about not enjoying that thing. I know because I myself am guilty of this.
Ooh.
Growing up, I never liked Lord of the Rings. Everyone talked about it like it was the greatest thing ever, constantly compared it to my favorite movies, and it was just everywhere.
And I don't mean to dog on the guy making this video. I don't mean to do that, but I will never understand this attitude. I don't get it. Just because something's popular, the opposite, people just have to hate on things that's popular. Like, I will never understand that. If everybody is liking this one movie that's coming out, like, I don't know what's out right now. Like, there's not Sonic, okay? Sonic's out right now, okay? Everybody's hyping up, talking about how great the Sonic movie is. I will never understand the people who sit back and go, yeah, not for me. Like, just automatically hate it just because everybody else is liking it. Like, it's a special breed of people.
I got sick of it, and because of this, I declared that not only did I hate Lord of the Rings, but that I would never watch it to spite everyone who worshipped it.
Now, it's nice that the sorry, I don't recall the channel's name. I've never come across it. And by the way, go show the channel some support. This video is phenomenal. Check it out in the pinned comment description down below. The links will be there. It's nice to see that somebody is recapping their opinion, showing that they've grown from it and talking about being guilty of doing something. I just don't understand how people can go through life like that. Why not, like, check out this thing that people are going crazy about instead of hating it?
I was bitter about it. And looking back, this was really stupid of me. I was basically depriving myself of a super cool story just because I was being stubborn and not even giving that thing a chance.
And actually, on the topic, I've actually never watched Lord of the Rings. I keep meaning to, but I never get around to
And
it.
I feel like this is something that people do with anime as well. There's a good chance that there's any number of people who had a bad experience with anime. And now, because of that one experience, would rather write it off completely than ever give it a second chance.
Yep, and you know what? And I understand that more than the people who just flat out refuse to watch it because it's a cartoon. I understand that. Like, if you had a bad experience, while you should give something else a chance, at least like you did give that a chance, and it's understandable to kind of come back and just say you don't really like anime, but at the same time, it's kind of understandable, kind of not.
And look, people are allowed to have their opinions. If you're watching this and are shaking your head all the way through, disagreeing with everything that I say, then that's fine. You are welcome to your opinion. But I also feel like completely disregarding anime, well, is kind of silly. Anime is a huge well of creativity.
Yeah, and it's beyond anything we've seen. Like, some of the stories we see here are beyond anything that the West can create.
And I feel like even if you hate the vast majority of it, somewhere there's an anime for you. Because there's an anime for everyone.
Yeah, and just like regular TV shows, man, like, you can find different genres, different types of shows. Like, if there's something that you like, I can guarantee you there's something that you like within anime.
And if you do wind up finding that anime, there's a good chance that it could have the potential to give you a completely new perspective.
And then once one captures you, you're going to get into the rabbit hole. That's what happened with me. I watched my first show, Death Note, and that was so good. But I'm talking about, like, not the ones from like 4Kids. I thought those were cartoons. I don't know. I've never really thought any differently. I do have one critique, by the way. This was a great video. And again, links will be in the pinned comment description down below. But I actually do have one critique for this video. Is the biggest thing, and that's what actually personally turned me off from anime, is the fan service. It's understandable for people to get really turned off by that. Like I talked about Fire Force. And there was another show, I can't remember what it was called exactly. I watched like 3 or 4 episodes of it. I was on Crunchyroll just a night, like looking for the next show to watch. And this story, it was like it wasn't Clockwork Tower. Clockwork something. Clockwork World. I don't recall, and I'm sorry. Like, I don't know if you just think I'm being stupid, but I'm really telling the truth, okay? I don't recall what it was called, but it was just in the shows to watch thing from, I was looking for a show to watch. I read the description. It's like, okay, the world's run by gears. Pretty cool. This guy's super smart. I'm going to give the show a chance. And the premise was okay, but then it got into, like, the main character was a kid. That's fine. And then you get to this girl, right? You get to the girl, and she is, I don't care how the show presents it. I don't care. The girl's 12 years old. And then it's starting to show, like, these kind of suggestive things that are obviously made for the viewer and not made for that. I turn it off immediately. I'm like, how could anybody sit down, not only, like, animate something like this, create something like this, but how could you watch something like that? That is a big, big problem with anime, and something that I have a major problem with. I have an issue with the shows, and another one was Chain Soldier. I checked out that show too, by the way, because I've seen endless advertisements to it. Because I subscribe to High Dive, not at the moment, but like I bounce from platform to platform depending on what I'm watching. I kept seeing this advertisement for Chain Soldier. Chain Soldier's coming out, and when I started the show, it looked cool. There was this like demonish character, like, and there was a soldier who turned into a big monster. Super cool. Let alone it's just a kinky show for people with a specific kink to go check out. I don't like it when anime turns into softcore adult content, okay? I think that's unhealthy for you in general, and I'd rather you tell a story instead of, oh yeah, here's the Dommy Mommy, something along those lines. I think that's gross, and I think it is beyond disgusting once you get into the kid thing, because there is a lot of that with an anime. And I wish that this video would have touched on it, because that is a very, very valid reason to be turned off from anime. It's a very valid reason to hate anime. If you start, like, really getting into a show about this, like, little girl. Oh, but she's technically 105 years old. You hear that argument here and there. Like, no, shut up. You like kids, okay? I would personally fund an investigation on your hardware, okay? Like, I am so for that, and it's a valid reason to hate anime. The other thing is, like I said, just fan service in general. It's so unnecessary, it's weird, it's disgusting. Like I mentioned with Fire Force, like, you have this story that's kind of cool, right? And then you have this one character who's just in there so she can trip over something and get naked. Like, even if you really want to watch something like that, there are platforms for that. Why are you infecting this great story? And then, I don't even know if I'm going to watch a new season of Fire Force, because it was intriguing, but I hate the fact that that stuff just constantly interrupts the story. When it comes to that stuff, and especially the younger kids, it is completely valid to be turned off from anime. And you go, okay, this is what that is. Gross, out of here. For me personally, when I thought of anime, I thought about the first of all, like the really, really weird people online, like, you know, not the people who buy things ironically, which I would argue the people who kind of do this too oftentimes aren't doing it ironically, but they actually did want that anime body pillow in their bed, you know? There is also valid reasons to hate all of this stuff and valid reasons to really get uncomfortable around it. There's uncomfortable people who are obsessive with some characters, and I will straight up, I don't care. I will judge people for liking particular shows that show particular kids, you know, taking a shower or something like that. I know that technically not anything is shown, but it's so suggestive that it's disgusting. Like, it did not, that Clockwork show, it did not even hesitate in my brain to watch it for another second. The second that I saw that, I was like, I'm out of here. That's disgusting. I don't get it. And that is probably one of the biggest reasons why people have issues with anime. I love Demon Slayer. The second they introduced that character, it's like, oh my God, with their like tits bouncing everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Are you about to ruin my favorite show? And I know you're going to comment down below too. If you're somebody who really likes anime, I know you're going to comment down below something along the lines of like, oh, what? You don't like seeing girls? You know what I'm talking about. You know how over the top and ridiculous it is. It's fine to have attractive characters. It's fine to have, I'll even say like fan service to a certain point. It's fine, but it gets so ridiculous within that. And that is one of the biggest reasons why people have problems with these anime shows. I would not be comfortable with any of my kids watching anything that's basically just softcore adult content. But for the vast majority of the points that the presenter of this video did create, like, I definitely agree with that. There are a lot of people just coming from ignorant standpoints and a lot of great stories that could be told through anime. It's just unfortunate that there's such a roadblock with it, right? And I grew up, like, a lot of my life just thinking it was all weird, but then you find incredible stories like Attack on Titan, things that are like Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You see some of the most heartbreaking, beautiful pieces of art that you could ever come across, and it's really, really nice, man. But in the meantime, why don't you check out one of these two videos right here. One, the Attack on Titan finale, and the most recent season of Demon Slayer. You can check out my review for both of these. I'd love to have you guys over there. Speaking of anime, keep watching the channel. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching.